Cool. All right. Let's see here. Looks like we're live. Just gonna wait a little bit. All right. Looks like we're live right now. How is everybody doing? This is, of course, your boy Bernie here on the charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. And today, guys, we're really going to discuss a little bit more about what's been going on in this Chet Holmgren situation. Yo, what's up, Ben? How you doing, man? We're really going to talk about the Chet Holmgren situation. I know that there's been a lot of conversations going on back and forth. Whose fault was it? What's been going on? I know that obviously people are trying to figure out, can they sue the Pro Am League? Other things too is like, did the Oklahoma City Thunder okayed this Pro Am stuff? And so I'm just going to kind of break it down for you guys here on the chart. But before we do, guys, please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Again, all that stuff does help out the channel tremendously. And again, we want to grow this channel to be something special. We want this to be something where a lot of you guys can come in and tell us how you're feeling about this stuff. I know, moderator Sean right now is probably in disarray. I'm just going to quickly turn on the lights, give myself a little bit more lighting. I need to remember to do this beforehand. But I know that Sean is very disappointed in the fact that he is losing his guy in Chet Holmgren this early in the season. Of course, a setback for a major comeback, of course, but obviously is a frustrating situation. So for people that don't really know the situation that's going on right now, here's what the story goes on to say. Chet Holmgren will be missing the entire 2022-23 season with the Liz Frank injury in his right foot. Holmgren suffered that injury during the Pro-Am game in Seattle this past weekend. The Oklahoma City Thunder selected Holmgren with the second overall pick in the 2022 NBA draft. Surely we are disappointed for Chet, especially given the excitement he had about getting on the floor with his teammates this season, said Sam Presti. We know that Chet Holmgren has a long career ahead of him within our organization and the Oklahoma City community. One of the things that we were most impressed with during the process for selecting Chet was this determination and focus. We expect the same tenacity when will carry him through the period of time as we work together through his rehabilitation. So here's what I think I will say about this. And Drunk, I think you said here, man, try to tell you all about the injuries in the Pro Am. I literally said he said, hey, I wouldn't have my top pick playing in the Pro Am. You are right, Drunk. You did say that during our live stream during the Pro Am game. Here's what I will say. I think at the end of the day, it's a freak accident. I think that the narrative surrounding Chet Holmgren in terms of his build and how tall he is and things like that, I think those things have to go out the window, man. This was a freak accident. This was not supposed to be. Again, this wasn't a situation where Chet Holmgren was playing, going up and down the court, and then all of a sudden his foot hurts. Like, this is a continued situation where I feel like Chet ultimately got screwed over by the fact that I think the court conditions were not great. We obviously all know about the SPU and kind of my rage about why that event was held there. But at the end of the day, I don't think that is necessarily the fault of Chet Holmgren or even LeBron. I just think at the end of the day, it was held by the poor court conditions of SPU. And I think that goes on Jamal Crawford. And again, I don't want to blame him and say like it's all his fault. But what I will say is that you know how those courts are. You've played there for so many years at SPU. I think by now you should understand, especially at the magnitude, especially if you're bringing, everybody, friends and family, and a couple, hundred, maybe even, thousands of fans into SPU. You should know how the courts are going to feel when you have to keep the doors closed and you can't really, and there's no real good ventilation in SPU, Seattle Pacific University, for people that don't know. But Jamal knows this. Jamal knows the court conditions. I think Now I'm curious to see if NBA teams will now be a little bit more involved in this process. So, for example, whether the NBA, kind of continues this pro-am circuit. I think that they actually do like the idea of having pro-ams. I think the idea that people say, "Oh, well, this will be over," I think is absolutely asinine because the amount of the people that watch it, the amount of revenue that you probably could create from it, from the NBA's perspective, is okay. Well, let's get involved a little bit more, making sure that one, the security is properly there. Two, going to an arena or a court where it's circulated well, so that way there's no court slippage, there's no people falling on the floor. I just think that that's really what a lot of people are looking forward to. I think that's kind of something where I wish Jamal Crawford would have taken a little bit more responsibility in that sense, where he should have known that this was definitely not the place to play a game, especially when you have LeBron James on the court. Again, LeBron James, Jason Tatum, two of the NBA superstars of the league, they can't be playing on those court conditions. You know how the courts get. I know that for 9 to 5 guys or guys like myself, that love basketball and will play, it doesn't really matter. But when you have guys that are actual NBA players or people that play overseas, that this is not just this is an accident. Like this could cost someone their money. Let me see here, drunk. Let me read your comments really quick. Um, yeah, everybody blaming this on his build, and I definitely don't agree with that. It's a freak injury. I agree with NBA loves people talking about the players in the off season. Everybody's saying Presley happy so they can take for Victor Wembanyama. And again, if you guys haven't seen that video, I do have that on the channel. Go and check that video out. It's actually a very fun watch. But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I'm not sure if Sean's in here or not yet. But I think at the end of the day, it was a freak accident. It wasn't necessarily something where I think it was malicious. Most loaded pro game of all time in the court is a pond. I mean, I think that's the problem, drunk, is that when you know that there's so much people. I mean, what makes guy like Rucker Park a very different a different avenue is the fact that it's outside. The only thing that really can affect it is rain. But if it's a dry New York summer night, it's perfect weather condition to go play out there. But for people that live in the Seattle area that have either played there as a player during those SPU high school tournaments, have coached in it, or have played them themselves, you know how those courts get, or even the guys that played in the crossover, you know how those courts get. It's not a fun condition to play in when you have to continuously have the ball boys wipe the floor, because if you have to keep doing it continuously, it's going to lead to situations where players are going to get hurt. We obviously saw a lot of players were starting to slip, starting to fall, and that's why Jamal Crawford had to call it at the end of the day. He said, this was the conditions on the court are not very good. Had to call it, and I think he knew he had to call it, especially since he knew that Chet Holmgren got hurt in that. And as soon as I think maybe he got relayed the message that, hey man, Chet's really seriously hurt. I think that's when Jamal was like, okay, yeah, we gotta cut it here. As much as I love you guys, and as much as the city loves Seattle, we can't continue to play on these courts. And I just think that that's the frustrating thing about it, because I think it would have been a successful event if, again, barring the camping and the stuff that we talked about before on this channel. Like I do think that this would have been a perfect opportunity for the city of Seattle, but also the NBA to be like, okay, maybe we can start doing something with these pro-am leagues. Maybe we can provide the cameras, meaning that we can provide the security. I think if the NBA was smart, they would capitalize on this movement and say, okay, we'll be here for you guys. If you guys ever want to do this again, we'll be here for you. If you want to continue to play, if you want to continue to host these events, we'll do them for you. We'll be security for you. Because I think that's the problem that Jamal Crawford got into, is that he kind of understood, or maybe didn't realize, like the extent of how much security he would actually need for that pro-am game. Because if he actually knew how much he needed, he definitely would have gotten those guys there earlier. They probably would not have to use the Seattle Police Department. They probably could have just done it themselves. They probably could have the NBA's private security to deal with the outside crowd and making sure that those guys that kind of tried to sneak in and bum rush the front weren't bums and tried to sneak in and beat everyone that was already in line. I think that's the frustrating part about this whole thing, is that I think the injuries could have been prevented if there was better security there. And not security where, you're beating people up, but making sure that there's an orderly line. Because we all know what happens when humans, that there's no line, it's open, free for all. We know what type of situation that leads to. It leads to what we got the other day, which was just people trying to fight each other to be in front of the line. And the reason why only 200 people, I think at most, got inside the stadium. And so, again, as much as I would love to blame, Jamal Crawford 100%, you just can't do that. Again, it's a freak accident. I don't think it was necessarily something where it would happen. Maybe this has happened like one out of 10 times. And unfortunately, Chet Holmgren got hurt on that 10th time. But I think the other external factors of course, the security there, because then it allows the doors to be open. You allow more ventilation instead of closing the doors. People getting there on time, getting full so you could really feel the courts and things like that. And, really understanding the court situation. Because again, anybody that has coached there, or anybody that has played there, how those courts get. You obviously do. And it's not even just the courts on the upstairs floor, the ones on the downstairs with the Seattle Storm practice at SPU. Those courts can get slippery as well, and that's why they have to open the doors a lot of the times during the summer. Like I remember those doors were always open when we would be playing, especially when I was coaching those games. Like they would be open, and so I think that this is the frustrating situation that I kind of find myself in and kind of wondering what's the next step for the NBA. But I think in order for them to continue the pro am situation, in order for them to continue for the players to enjoy the pro am, and again, this is not only just a place where the young players or the young kids can see their favorite superstars. I think I love the idea of that. I love the idea that kids that can't really afford to go to the games, or even the kids in Seattle, right? They have to go 3 hours to go to Portland to watch the Trailblazers play, whatever team they decide to play. And those tickets are not cheap either. And think about how much gas price you have to spend to go to the game and come back. By the time the game's over, you're practically the game starts at 7, game finishes at 10, you're back home by God knows how long. I mean, you're there till like almost 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And so I think that's kind of the situation that I'm feeling with this whole Chet Holmgren and other things like that. And let me just quickly check something really quick. Chet, sorry, I just had to check something quick for work. But yeah, again, I just think that it is a frustrating situation to see that now Chet Holmgren will be out a season and will definitely have to be on the sideline learning, watching the game. And I think the unfortunate thing that happened throughout this whole situation was you kind of wasted a summer with Giddy and Chet Holmgren, who played together in the summer league. We saw the connections, we saw how those people were doing, and again, Chet Holmgren never got hurt there. He never got an injury there. And so for the people that continue to start this narrative, and it's a really frustrating narrative, as again, someone that's a believer in Chet Holmgren, the narrative that he's weak, the narrative that he's small, that has to go out the window because that had nothing to do with the injury that just happened at the Pro Am. That injury was 100% a freak accident. And if we want to talk about conditions and things on the court condition was not appropriate for an NBA superstar or NBA player at all. And I think that, like I said, moving forward, the NBA will, I think, lend a hand in that. And maybe the NBA could help out Jamal Crawford, especially in the city of Seattle, where you could see Jamal Crawford maybe spearheading the organization that leads to them finally getting a team. Like, that would be dope as hell. Like, again, Jamal Crawford has done a lot for the city. And again, I don't want to disparage him or disrespect him in any way. Because he has done a lot for the city. The fact that this crossover allows many guys like Kevin Durant to play in this back in the day, Paulo and Chet have already played in this beforehand, and DeJounte Murray and many other guys, Eric Gordon, like a lot of different guys have played in this pro am, and so I don't want to, I think disrespecting would not be fair, but I think criticizing it in a way that, hey, let's think about a different venue because again, Jamal Crawford knows about the SPU arena. It's not the best conditions for, I would say, a superstar, in my opinion. I think that it's definitely a situation where you have to maybe go to UW, or maybe you go to a smaller like college arena. Maybe Bellevue College would be a better idea. I think Bellevue College would actually be a lot better. Thinking about it now, I think Bellevue College would be a lot better. Now, I think Jamal actually knows the guys there from FOH, where FOH kind of does their practices, but I also think he also knows the Bellevue coach, and I think that would have been a much better situation for the NBA players because again, it also puts it away from Seattle. Me and my homies hate Jamal Crawford. Again, Sean, I understand you do hate Jamal Crawford. I criticized him for again the planning of it and not really understanding the severity of hey, you're bringing in an NBA legend, and while also bringing in these NBA star players, you have to play it in a better arena. And so I've already recommended UW, Bellevue College. I think those would have been better places to sort of have those games. I think at Bellevue College you can have a little bit more people in there, and I don't think you have to deal with much slippage there because I haven't, coaching there myself, and even playing there back in the day, I've never had to deal with slippage at Bellevue College. And I think that probably would have been a better fit for those NBA superstars to play there too, because they also have the lines there. But again, let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about Chet Holmgren and the injury? Yeah, Tyrese, I know, man. Chet done for the season. It's unfortunate. Um, I think the only thing, like I said, I could say is I don't want this to be a narrative that Chet always gets hurt, or hey, big man get hurt again, or hey, he has such a fragile frame. This was a freak accident, and like I said earlier, at the worst, you could call it just poor court conditions with the way that the court was set up. I don't think it's necessarily fair to call this a weight room issue for Chet Holmgren necessarily. So again, let me know in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about Chet Holmgren now done with the NBA season for this year? Hopefully, he can come back in the 23-24 season and absolutely ball out because I think he has the potential to be a very special player, especially the way that the Oklahoma City Thunder want to play their style and the way they want to play their game. Again, Drunk, you kind of talked about them maybe trying to tank um, for Victor Wembanyama. Not sure if they're going to be that bad, but I'm excited for Giddy and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander to continue their partnership and to continue to see what happens there. Again, it sucks because Giddy and Holmgren had such a great relationship with one another. It sucks that they can't play together this season, but I'm excited to see them next season when Chet Holmgren is officially healthy and we can start moving past this sort of injury, and hopefully he has a great rehab sessions with his trainers and making sure that he is getting up to date with his health and everything that's around him. But again, let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of Chet Holmgren out for the NBA season? All right, let's move on really quick to the next story of the day, and that is, of course, the Lakers have officially made a trade. The Lakers have officially made the trade, and that is to acquire Patrick Beverley for Taylor Horton Tucker and Stanley Johnson. The LA Lakers are finalizing a deal. This, of course, according to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. The deal to acquire Patrick Beverley for the Utah Jazz for Horton Tucker, Stanley Johnson. I think that this is a good move. I think that by acquiring Patrick Beverley, the Lakers are now in a position to be the forefront. Again, this all stems from Anthony Davis. Can he stay healthy? Because we know at the end of the day, this has to be his team now. This can no longer, LeBron has to pass the mantle on to Anthony Davis in terms of being the best player on the team. LeBron will continue to do his thing. He'll continue to do 25 or even 27, 7, and 7. I think that's what he'll continue to average for his career, even as he continues to get a lot older, because I think that he continuously shows that he can put up 20 plus every night, along with the other stats as well. Now, the question is, can Anthony Davis continue that fine form of run that he had during the bubble season, and can he bring it over to this season? Because in order, like I said, for the Lakers to be a successful team, in order for Darvin Ham to really utilize this team to the best of his ability, especially to utilize a guy like Patrick Beverley, who, again, I think could be a difference maker for the Lakers, you definitely need to make sure that Patrick Beverley, or sorry, that Anthony Davis is the focal front of your offense, focal point of your attack. Because what made it frustrating last season was that LeBron James was at the forefront of everything, and you could see how exhausted and tired he got, and really couldn't play the defense that was necessary for the Lakers. Again, a lot of people can start making the excuses right now. Well, LeBron needs to play this way. LeBron needs to continue to, you know, if he is the king, if he is truly the number one guy, especially for Lakers, he needs to be playing this way. But we would not expect this from any other 38-year-old in the league, right? I mean, think about it from this perspective. We're calling CP3 old, but LeBron James is close to the same age, but we're not calling LeBron James old, and we're not expecting uh, CP3 to carry the Phoenix Suns anymore. Like we're not expecting him to carry that team. It has to be Devin Booker. And again, what is frustrating for me is that this needs to be an Anthony Davis prove it year now. And I think he will do it. I think that, feet are to the fire of Anthony Davis. I think he will respond well to that pressure because, again, there is going to be pressure for them. I don't necessarily think that it's going to be pressure for LeBron James. It's not going to be pressure for anybody else but Anthony Davis. Because for Anthony Davis, he understands his assignment as the number one player on the team. He understands that he needs to get a lot healthier. He needs to understand his body a little bit more, how to rehab it better, how to play the game a lot more efficiently because I think, like I talked about many years ago, I think he could have been a similar type of Joel Embiid Giannis mixture if he were to stay healthy. If like we could really get a healthy Anthony Davis week in and week out, you could see him being in that conversation with those two guys. But unfortunately, with all the injuries, he's out of that conversation right now. I would like him to insert himself back into that conversation, insert himself into becoming that number one guy that, again, the Lakers need in order for guys like Patrick Beverly and Russell Westbrook and LeBron James to play better. Now, I don't know necessarily if Russell Westbrook's going to get traded. I know there's rumors of him maybe potentially getting traded to, I believe, either Indiana or, the Lakers. Kyrie Irving drama is still there. But at the end of the day, excuse me, um, I think it's going to be on the hands and at the forefront of Anthony Davis. Because I think, like, kind of going back to this Patrick Beverly trade, I think Patrick Beverly is a great player for the Lakers because I think that he has a renewed, not only just confidence, but a renewed goal of what he wants to do for the kind of the remaining part of Patrick Beverly's career. Patrick Beverly, again, the way that he has fought from playing overseas to where he's at right now is an inspiration to everybody, and I think that that's kind of where he's at right now. Where again, the Clippers gave up on him, and now the Lakers are like, well, we're going to give you an opportunity to get back at them. And I think that Patrick Beverly saw that and said, hey, I'm going to definitely do my best to get there because I want to take down the Clippers for the way that they treated me. And I love players that have a chip on their shoulder because what it allows them to do is allows them to play beyond the expectations of the fans, us. I'm including myself as fans. Like it allows him to go above those expectations. And so I'm excited to see Patrick Beverly continue to fight, continue to work, and continue to really battle it out. And really, I think, toughen up the Lakers. I think one thing that the Lakers kind of missed was a tough guy, a guy that will hold everybody accountable. Guys like Draymond Green, I'm sure you saw that video, that post of him talking about the energy and effort. It's the same thing I think Patrick Beverly will bring to these guys in for Lakers. Now, from a Lakers perspective, trading both THT and Stanley Johnson, again, I was never the biggest THT guy. I think that Horton Tucker, for me, I think he's a solid player. Is he the most amazing player in the world? No. But I think he's a solid player for the Jazz. You can see what you may have in him. Stanley Johnson, again, a guy that continues to kind of move team to team. I definitely see him just trying to maybe do a buyout, maybe sign somewhere else, maybe signs for the Milwaukee Bucks later on, or maybe even the Brooklyn Nets could try to sign him, do a little buyout situation. But I think THT, you were hoping for the potential to go above and beyond. I don't think he ever rose above an Alex Caruso, which is what the Lakers probably should have paid Alex Caruso instead of Horton Tucker. But at the end of the day, they went the direction that they went in. Um, and I just think that Taylor Horton Tucker, again, he's an okay player. I think that a lot of Laker fans overhyped him. A lot of people really kind of hyped him up so that way the Lakers could use him as trade bait, right? I think a lot of people were saying, hey, we'll put all these packages together because Horton Tucker's that good. He has the potential. But I really want to know what Laker fans think of Horton Tucker now that they got rid of him, even if it was for Patrick Beverly, which people may or may not respect Patrick Beverly. I'm not sure. I haven't really gauged what the fans' perception of Patrick Beverly is. But all I know is that he's a gamer. He's a game changer, and I'm excited to see him grow in the role of being a mentor to some of these young players like Lonnie Walker the fourth, and even Russell Westbrook. I think he's going to hold Russell Westbrook accountable. I know that they have beef with one another, It's going to be a fun kind of off season, but also in season stuff to see how those two kind of cooperate with one another. It's looking more and more likely that, again, from my perspective and the opinion of just the charge itself, it's looking less and less likely that Kyrie Irving will come to uh, LA. But again, you want to continue pushing, especially if you're the Lakers. If you're winning and this team continues, and you're saying, okay, well, now we can probably get Kyrie Irving, that's probably what they're trying to do. They're trying to figure out a way to get him, but I think they're going to have to go with what they have. But again, all of this stuff doesn't matter if Anthony Davis can't step up to the plate as the number one guy. I think that that's kind of where I'm at with this sort of situation. That's where I'm at with um, the Lakers moving forward, is that it has to be Anthony Davis's team. And with Anthony Davis being the head of the snake, he has to remain healthy. He has to remain vigilant in his training. He has to remain vigilant in his play, because that's the only way that the Lakers are ever going to go far in the playoffs. That's how the Lakers are ever going to go far in anything related to the playoffs, especially in the Western Conference where you have the Warriors. He needs to be the number one guy in that series. And whether he goes to the finals or faces the Celtics or the Bucks, Anthony Davis definitely has to be the number one guy on the team. You can't no longer rely on the other guys to get you there. But with that being said, that is going to do it here for the charge. Let me really quickly just check to make sure that there's no other news and rumors that's going on. The other one, I've talked about this before, just really quick. Jaylen Brown, Derek White, one first round pick from the Celtics was the best offer. I told you guys about that before. Again, it's not something where I'm trying to toot my own horn, but think about it from the perspective of this, guys. And I know that I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here. No other team was going to give them the best deal. Jaylen Brown obviously sweetens the deal a lot more for the Brooklyn Nets, which then allows us to be like, okay, well, let's trade you him, Derek White, and maybe a first round pick and see if that gets done. But at the end of the day, I knew, and I think anybody could see it from the outside looking in, that that was the best offer that the Nets were going to get. And again, that stems from, like I talked about numerous amount of times, that Rudy Gobert trade, which again, they gave up a lot for him. I think that's what the Nets were looking for. And every other team was saying, well, we don't really think that, Kevin Durant is really worth that much, not because he's not talented, but because we don't know if he might do that to us. We never know if he might say, hey, as soon as I get traded, doesn't like the situation, hey, I want out again. I'm done. Because again, you set a precedent by doing that. And so you don't want to necessarily contribute to the root cause of what's going on in that situation. The other thing to talk about is that Donovan Mitchell has the Nets, the Knicks, and the Heat as his preferred destination. I mean, if I'm Mitchell, I'm looking to go on the Heat. Heat culture, I think, is everything. I think the other two teams in New York don't really have that culture of a coach or even a GM. And so I think that's kind of what my opinion is there. And let me kind of read some comments, Sean, and then I can get out of here. Let me really quickly read this. You said Pat Beverly doesn't move the needle. They can get the 3 seed LeBron AD play a full season at Tyrese. And that's what I kind of talked about, Sean. I think that the Patrick Beverly deal, again, is he necessarily a starting point? No, I don't think he's a starting point guard. What I think he is a sixth man, a guy that can come off the bench and really be a disruptor on the defensive end and maybe occasionally hit a couple shots to kind of help you with that. But what I am expecting from him is that if you have a healthy AD, if you have a healthy LeBron, you can finally continue to, if you have those two guys healthy, you can be a very competitive team. But again, it all stems on the Anthony Davis health situation. As much as I would love to say that, I think that, LeBron James will carry a franchise until, he decides to retire, it's just not true anymore. And it's not because of his skill and innate ability. It's because, he's 41 years old. Father Time is catching up. Actually, I think he's 38. But Father Time is starting to catch up to LeBron. He's no longer the 27-year-old that can carry a Cavaliers team to an NBA Finals in 2007. This is a LeBron James who has to rely on the strengths and the powers of other players, especially Anthony Davis, who you gave up so much for. You gave up the youth project to bring in Anthony Davis. And again, he needs to repay the favor by staying healthy throughout the whole season. And I hope that he will, and I think that he will do it this season. And I hope that this will be the year where Anthony Davis kind of goes above and beyond 60 games. I'm hoping that he plays at least 70. I think if he can play 70 games in a season, it's wraps. Like I don't think anybody should be concerned if Anthony Davis plays 70 games. I think everybody should be a-okay with that, and that's kind of my low bar expectation for Anthony Davis from here on out. And really quick, just kind of reading this story. Mitchell hasn't requested a trade from the Jazz. The team itself has made the decision to put him on the block. Obviously, the trio of the teams we talked about, the Nets, the Knicks, and the Heat. I talked about it before. The only thing that can be hard is that because Ben Simmons and Bam Adebayo signed their rookie extension, that's going to be the hardest part about doing that trade. Is you need you can't have two rookie max extensions on the same team, and so that's going to be a very interesting scenario to look at, because I think what it does is that now it stifles the decisions that now probably has to go to New York. Whereas I think he would be so much better in Heat culture. I think the Miami Heat would do a lot better with him. I could potentially see maybe even the Memphis Grizzlies trying to go after him. I could see a lot of teams trying to go after him. But again, my concern with Donovan Mitchell as a player has always been the shot selection and, kind of being a volume shooter himself, knowing when to take that shot and when to kind of pull back. But again, that's just my opinion. And as we kind of move forward and proceed with the regular season, Pete and I and Tyrese as well will join us and talking about, the NBA preseason and talking about how it's going to work out for these teams. We're going to do a series in a little bit. From that stuff. And so be on the lookout for that when we officially go live and talk about these teams and say, what's our preseason rankings for all these teams as we officially are close and underway, especially August 25th. We're close to the start of the regular season starting in October. I'm excited. Hopefully, you guys are excited. But anyway, guys, like I said, my name is Bernie. Thank you once again for joining us here on The Charge, giving you the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch everybody on the next video of The Charge. Anyway, guys, peace.